I started DoorDashing as a side hustle about 3 weeks ago. I'm no pro at it, but it seems to have its ups and downs from what I can tell so far, and I'm one who can usually catch on to something pretty quick. It hasn't even been a month, and I've experienced something strange during a delivery. I wouldn't go as far as to say it was super horrifying, but definitely disturbing. As I pulled up to the customer's house, I'm a bit confused by the instructions. It says to hand it to them, but then it also says not to ring the doorbell or to knock on the door. So as I'm walking towards the house, I shoot them a text asking if they want contact or contactless delivery. I wait a few, but no reply. That's when I notice the doorbell is actually not even there. It looks like it's been removed and there's just some exposed wires poking out of a hole. I guess I couldn't ring the bell anyway. I go to call the customer and seconds later I hear ringing from somewhere close by. I know something is off because the sound is super close to me and nobody is around me. When I turn around, I see a light illuminating from the bushes. So I shine my phone towards it. What I find is a large clear baggie full of like 10 cell phones. I was hit with so many emotions at one time, but disturbed and confused are the best to describe. It was one of those things that just leave you with goosebumps. It just didn't make sense. I remember I left the food on the porch and booked it. It was such a nice neighborhood too, so I wouldn't expect to run into something like that, but I guess you never know anymore. I'll start off by saying I knew I was going to be in for an odd delivery when I got a text from the customer. He sent it pretty much as soon as I picked his wings up from the restaurant. The text said to call him when I was near because the GPS usually sends the drivers behind the house instead of the correct street. Although I'm glad he sent the heads up, I guess I didn't call him soon enough. Before I knew it, I was driving behind the old mall. For a little bit of background, it was around 11 at night, so the mall wasn't popping. In fact, this mall had been shut down and abandoned for like 2 years now. So driving behind it didn't give me the best of feelings. There was no streetlights to guide my way, so I just drove slow through the empty back lot until my GPS suddenly said I had arrived. Obviously, I knew I wasn't where I needed to be, but there were houses to the right of me. I called the customer and I told him my situation, and he instantly started to chuckle. He said it happens all the time and that I'm probably right at his backyard. A few seconds later, I seen a man opening his back door and waving me down. I hung up the phone and I continued with delivering his order. As I handed him his order, he looked beyond me, a bit concerned. Then, he said something I'll never forget. "Don't stick around too long. They'll surround you." I looked at him as he stared past me into the darkness of the back mall area. Then he turned around and headed back into his house. So I quickly jumped into my car, unsure of what the hell he was even talking about. But as I slowly drove back down the empty lot, I turned my brights on when I thought something had caught my eyes. Sure enough, against the brick wall were multiple shadowy figures slowly moving towards each other. I almost pissed myself at first, until I realized what I was seeing. It was a group of homeless people gathered around. By group, I mean about 20 or 30. It didn't have to be anything paranormal or ghostly. It was just a creepy sight. I mean, I felt bad for them, but being in a dark, abandoned area with that many people looking at you, I mean, I didn't know what they could do. I just got the hell out of there, quick. I woke up early one morning, probably around 6 a.m., which was definitely too early for me, but I couldn't go back to sleep, so I decided to go do some dashing since the app showed it was actually busy in my area. Within 5 minutes, I got an order to this local donut shop. I didn't check where it was going because the payout was $10 for like 2 miles. Once I picked the order up, I turned my GPS on to see where I was going. It was to some college campus that I've seen before, but I've never been to. I should also mention that I hate delivering to places like schools and hospitals because it's such a hassle to figure out where to go once you get to the actual building. It's hard to explain. If you dash, you know. Anyway, once I arrived, I tried calling the customer to figure out a spot to meet at since she didn't leave an exact location, but she didn't answer her phone. So I started heading towards the closest building to me. I figured there would be an office with someone I could talk to, hopefully. But on my way towards the building, I noticed something that caught my attention. As I crossed a dirt path next to this big tree, I seen a trail of what looked like blood, leading off into the grass and down into the woods. It was enough to stop me in my tracks. This definitely didn't seem right. I was officially freaked out. I made my way into the building and saw a few older women standing around. So I told them I had a DoorDash order and they looked the name up and said they would make sure she got it. That's when I told them about the trail of blood I saw outside. The 2 women looked terrified, and around that time a college-looking dude came into the office. I'm not sure who he was, but they relayed the message to him and he followed me out to where the trail was. I showed the guy where it was, and that's when I noticed something new myself. As we were talking about the blood, he started going on about how wild animals come through the woods all the time. I looked down near the tree and saw at least 4 or 5 full pieces of teeth. I pointed directly towards it, and when the guy saw it, he seemed to know exactly what he was talking about. As he kneeled down, he looked at me and said, "Those aren't human teeth." That's all I needed to hear, and I was done with that place. I didn't stick around to figure out what happened, but after he said that, I didn't want to know anymore. All I'm gonna say about this order is, I don't understand why people do the things they do sometimes. First of all, it was foggy as hell and early in the morning. The sun was barely shining, so it was basically the nightmare scenario. To be honest, I really don't know why I even took this order. I guess the pay looked good to me. It was 4 large coffees from Tim Hortons. I tried to check my delivery spot, but it was just some big open area on the map. As I approached my destination, I realized I was at some construction site, but I didn't see anybody around. Though the fog wasn't really helping, I could barely see a couple feet in front of me. I called the customer and he answered. I told him I had arrived and he said to just go through the orange gates and meet him outside modular number 1. But with all this damn fog, I had no clue where anything was. I hopped out of my truck and walked through the fog until I seen the orange gate. Quickly looking to my right, I saw what appeared to be 2 silhouettes brushing past me. Neither one of them said a word. I continued forward until I saw a dark, large rectangular object. That had to be one of the modulars. As I got closer to the modular, I looked into the window when I noticed another dark silhouette standing there. My heart skipped a beat when I realized the figure was dead set on me. I yelled up towards the window, asking if this was modular number 1, but I didn't get a response. Instead, the shadowy image walked away. I started to become annoyed and maybe a bit paranoid being out there alone in that fog. So I walked up the close by ramp until I saw the one on the wall next to the door. So this was modular number 1. I walked in and looked around the darkened room, but the person that was in here moments before didn't appear to be in here anymore. I left the coffees on the table and sent pictures of the order to the customer because he didn't appear to be around, and at this point, I didn't feel like sticking around. It was on my way back to my truck that things started to get freaky. I swear I thought I heard somebody walking right up behind me, and when I turned around, I could see another silhouette of a man in the distance. Maybe 20 feet behind me, just standing there. It creeped me the hell out. I kept moving until I could see my truck and the man was no longer in view. Once I got back in my truck, I felt relieved, but only for a moment. As I shifted into drive and started to slowly take off, I could see that same silhouette right through my windshield. I know it was foggy, and the person was nothing but a shadowy image, but I could just tell it was the same man I saw standing before me minutes ago. This time, he was about 10 feet away from my truck, in that same position, just standing there, motionless. My heart was pounding and I was fully convinced this man was following me. He was blocking my exit, so I reached for my phone, ready to call the police if I had to. But just as I looked through the windshield again, he was instantly gone. With all the fog all around, he could have been anywhere, but I didn't waste another second. I saw an opening and I got the hell out of there.